Well, hello and welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know, our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution. Growing yourself enables you to grow others. So you can't give what you don't have. So in order to grow, you must first grow yourself. Now, we believe that outstanding leaders like yourself can help us help others. So tonight we have another dynamic leader with us tonight. So, you know, folks, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guests. And tonight our guest is a good friend, the superintendent in Lake Charles, Louisiana for the Cedrick Parish School System, Mr. Karl Bruchhaus. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let me introduce you to Mr. Karl Bruchhaus. So Karl was the Chief Financial Officer for Cedrick Parish Schools for over 18 years. And now he serves as the superintendent and has served in that role for the last 6 years. He's a certified public accountant. He graduated from McNeese State University in 1987 with an accounting degree and has served on various Louisiana school boards in a financial operating capacity. Karl is active in a number of professional organizations and has served them in a lot of different leadership roles and responsibilities. Karl and his wife, Paula, a PE teacher at Prairie Lake Elementary School in Lake Charles, have been married for 33 years. That's a long time, folks. And they have two children, Christian, who's age 28, and Bailey, 24. He's active member in his church activities and enjoys golf and fitness activities. So welcome again to the show.
Well, thanks for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually excited that you're able to join us tonight. You know, Karl, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? So tell our listeners a little bit about your leadership journey and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, actually growing up in a small town in a small school with 34 graduates in my graduating class, there were plenty of opportunities even back in high school days to lead in clubs and those types of things. And I took advantage of that before going to college. I went to LSU when I graduated from my small high school, and I was a small fish in a big pond, and decided after a year that McNeese, closer to home, is where I needed to be, and so transferred here. And after taking a number of accounting courses and graduating with an accounting degree from McNeese, and getting married while I was still in college. Like you said, those 33 years started actually when Paula and I were in college. So we got married. I worked for a city here in Jennings, Louisiana, not too far from here, and saw an ad in the paper about a school board job up in Mansfield, Louisiana, DeSoto Parish.
Wow.
So ended up interviewing for and got the job up there as an accountant. So we moved to north, newlyweds moving north to DeSoto Parish. Didn't really know anybody up there. Just took a chance. And from that point, it led to various school board jobs around the state. So at 23 years old, I was the chief financial officer in St. John the Baptist Parish over in Laplace near New Orleans. From there, I was the director of finance a year later in Vermilion Parish, sort of always moving back closer to home, right? Closer to Lake Charles. Then to Jeff Davis Parish, which is my home parish, and eventually to Calcasieu, where, like you said earlier when you introduced me, I was chief financial officer for 18 years here, and before becoming superintendent for the last 6.
Yeah. So, so now you decided to, after 18 years, I'm going to jump into the big seat, the hot seat. Right? What made you say, you know what, let me go ahead and just go for this?
Man, let me tell you, if you'd have put me on a lie detector machine 6 months before I got this job, I would have told you, and I would have passed, that I never wanted to be a superintendent or ever thought I would be a superintendent. Even after 26 years in school systems, It was just not something I saw in my future because I was on the business end, right?
Right.
But a few people in the school system came up to me when the job became vacant and said, "Look, you've been here for 18 years. You pretty much know a lot about a lot of things going on in the school system." And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring. It was a big challenge, honestly, because there were so many people who said, "Well, you're not an educator, right? You weren't a classroom teacher. That's the traditional route to become a superintendent." And they were right. I never was a classroom teacher, but I had the perspective as the finance person of seeing every part of the school system every day, from a monetary perspective and dealing with the department heads and the principals and assistant principals. So I had a pretty good feel for what it might take, and obviously was successful in becoming the superintendent. Like I said, 6 years ago, and have been here ever since doing the job.
Well, awesome. Well, keep doing a great job there. So now that you've been in the role for 6 years, is it still fun?
So, it's fulfilling. It's challenging, no doubt about it. And certainly there are times that are fun. Look forward to coming to work every day and getting things done. You love the people you work with, and that you see every day. And so, yeah, I would say just the fact that things are different and changing so fast all of the time make it fun. You never quite know what to expect. Now, there certainly can be challenges with that, right? So not every minute's fun, because at any given time you're making about half of the population mad, right, with every decision you make. So those times certainly aren't fun. But I would say overall the job is very fulfilling. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and that's one of the things that everybody always wants, a fulfilling job. So, what gets you excited and gets you out of bed every day to come to your office and work?
Well, of course the job, but my family, I think, comes first, man. The type of family I came from in a small town, and then certainly now with my wife of 33 years, Paula, who's a teacher. And then my son, who recently became a teacher this year, at 28, he's married now and became a teacher. And then my daughter actually got engaged this weekend.
Oh,
she's a registered nurse. So I'm so proud of them and happy to be with them. But then from a work perspective, it is that challenge every day that I mentioned a few seconds ago. Coming here, knowing that we're so big in the school system and there's so much to do every day. It's almost like I can't get here early enough to start the task because I know there's so much to get done. And I really don't mind that. I really enjoy working, so that's not a problem. But that's what keeps me going and gets me here every day.
Well, and that's awesome. Congratulations to your daughter on the engagement.
Well, thanks so much.
I know that has to be exciting. And then, next thing comes grandkids and all of that stuff, right?
Oh, my wife can't wait. Me too. But she's so excited about that. She has the baby bed already set up. She has 2 bears sitting in the baby bed at home.
That's awesome. Karl, leaders come in all different sizes and packages with different strengths, right? What strengths do you feel are important to be a successful leader in any career?
Well, I think in any organization, right? And so most of my work's been in government, but I think it's true in any organization, but especially in one this big. You have to be willing to make a decision, investigate what you need to investigate, but make a decision and make it pretty fast. Because if you leave people hanging and people are waiting on you in an organization this big, things just don't get done, right?
Right.
So that's an important part of this, obviously. I think you have to have a compassion for the people that you lead, and they need to see it for the most part. And lastly, you need to understand the job, and you need to be able to read people. If I'm in front of a group of people and I've gotten to where now I'm fairly good at reading body language. I can tell if they're over me, right? If they don't want to hear from me every more and I'm not reaching them with what I'm saying, it's time to move on to something else. And so that's important in being a leader. because if you overdo and overstay that time with them, that's kind of a bad taste they get. So that's important too, I think.
Sure, absolutely. I agree with that. Well, good leaders ask great questions. That's how to keep people engaged in conversation. So, what have been some of the best questions that either you've asked that you thought, wow, my audience really gets engaged with that, or people have asked you that you thought were very engaging questions?
Well, I had to ask myself, certainly coming into this job, what is my role, right? What do I need to do for the district to be successful, for me to be successful in this role? A lot of organizations, I think, and school systems are no different, are not very good at identifying what you're not good at. I've tried the whole time I've been here, whether I was the chief financial officer or the superintendent, to say, what are we not good at? What are our weaknesses? That's an important question to ask yourself and your organization every day, because otherwise you can't grow, right? You got to know what you're not good at. And I think we try to do that fairly often with the leadership team here and say, hey, what are the things we need to work on every day to get better for children, to help our employees get better? And that's probably the biggest question we ask, because that's our growth catalyst, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I know that right now we talked a little bit about different challenges and all that type of stuff. Right now, the biggest thing is this coronavirus, right? And obviously, with school getting ready to start here in another week, you guys have had to deal with how are you going to handle your school. So what's been the biggest challenge you guys have had to overcome with dealing with this?
So, man, I think you're understating it when you just said it was big. It's huge, this coronavirus. It's so on March 13th, when we closed, and I kind of joke, we closed by governor tweet, right? So we sort of found out on Twitter that our school systems were closing in Louisiana. We didn't have any real prior notice. About 12:30, Friday the 13th of all days, we found out we were closing. And it's been a challenge ever since, right? Because things change so fast, minute by minute, because none of us have ever been through a pandemic. We don't really know what to do, and we're kind of feeling our way through it with guidance from wherever we can get it, in all honesty. Clearly one of the biggest challenges has been employee stress and anxiety. We're feeling that as we're going back to school right now. We didn't know if we'd be able to go back to school all summer. A lot of us thought, hey, man, this was going to be like a hurricane, which is our only point we've known where our school system has been closed. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to recover, right, and be back in school like normal. Man, here we are 5 months later, and we're just now hoping to go back, right? We're trying to make that happen. And then lastly, just responding to crisis. Your staff gets tired. I have staff members walk in here on Friday afternoon, man, and they're beat, because all week long it's crisis issue after crisis issue, change after change that you're dealing with, and it kind of wears on people after a while. So keeping people lifted up so that they can do the right thing and do their job, it's certainly been a big challenge dealing with COVID as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I know you guys start on August 24th, next Monday. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I think all of our processes are in place, Cedrick. I really do. We've been working hard for the last month to get those processes in place. Certainly we have some things left to do this week. So starting today, we're actually handing out devices to our online virtual students, connected classrooms, as we call it here at Calcasieu. We started handing out to those 7,500 students today devices that they're picking up at their home schools. We're hanging plexiglass around the district in our classrooms for our instructors, our teachers, giving them a sense of safety and security when they need it. In some cases, they'll be able to wear their face shield rather than the mask behind the plexiglass, so that the kids can actually see their face when they're delivering that instruction. We're doing things like hanging fire retardant visqueen, right? So we put up all these barriers because we can't have a group bigger than 25 right now in phase 2. in our district in any one area without a barrier. So our schools got creative in putting up barriers. And last week, the state informed us that they have to be fire retardant. We didn't know that this whole time until last week when they came out with that. So we scrambled and we were able to get a pallet of fire retardant, Class A fire retardant visqueen out of California that we got here in 2 days. And we have people working on that this week. Our signage is scheduled to come in here late in the week. We bid that out. Now our vendor had to order the materials. That's all of our one direction arrows in the hallways. That's our reminders to stay 6 feet away, right, in the hallways and everywhere. That's our symptom board that we're going to put at the entryway of every school to remind people what the symptoms are that they should be thinking about at home and when they come into school. We ordered 4,500 thermometers. So every teacher has a thermometer in their classroom, which is where we'll take temperatures every morning. You know, some people contacted us and said, well, hey, why aren't you doing it on the bus? Why aren't you doing it in the car line? And some of our schools will do it in the car line, but temperature, outdoor temperature, when it's 114 heat index,
Right.
like it has been the last few days, affects those thermal forehead thermometers quite a bit. So as children come in, they'll have a chance to settle down and kind of climatize. We'll take those temperatures first hour. We have isolation rooms available. And all that's been going on for the last month. We training after training after training to the point where our principals and assistant principals are probably tired hearing about it. But I think it's what we need to do to be prepared for all of the safety protocols that are different as we start the school year.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I know that, even with those precautions, which are great, you're going to learn more as you start school and different challenges come up and all that type of stuff. So it's going to be important to all the training that you did is going to be important. And then remember, staying flexible as kids enter the building. Right.
You bet.
Wow.
You bet.
I think you said this. I think I heard you say this, but I just want to make sure. So one parent asked a question: How many kids will be allowed in each classroom?
So the way our elementary schools work, Cedrick, for this year is they are to stay in static groups. So in our kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms, the class size cannot exceed 25, including the teacher. 25 warm bodies right in the classroom. But they're required to stay in static groups, meaning one group doesn't interact with another group during the day. So wherever that class goes, they go together and they don't mingle. Whether it's on the playground, whether it's lunch, whether it's enrichment classes, PE, or whatever, they go as a group. So that's the mechanism the state came up with to try to keep that group safe. And obviously what happens is if a teacher or a child from that static group becomes ill with the virus, it helps us to contact trace and know who's been associated with that group.
Okay.
In our upper groups, they'll change classes as they do in middle and high, right? We've been able, because we alternated days, to keep those class sizes relatively small. We'd anticipate those would be between 9 and probably 14 in a class. That allows us to get desks as far away and tables as far away as possible. So in some of those elementary classrooms, for example, where we have tables for the young ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be able to spread the tables out. I saw a classroom last week over in Westlake where they did a good job of having a child at each end of the table. And when you measure them, they were 6 feet apart. We also have ordered 5,000 dividers for the tables of the little ones where they're not really desks, to try to keep them separated and have they're cardboard with a clear plastic in the front of them. And that'll help keep some separation too. Obviously, where we can move desks, we're doing that, trying to keep them as far away as possible. The state language, though, understanding that not every classroom would probably be able to get to 6 feet, was to the maximum extent possible. So if we can do 5, we're going to do 5, right? As far apart as we can get the desks, we will do in those classrooms. We brought in some storage containers, and as the people drive around the school system, they'll see them sitting outside the schools to take everything that was non-essential out of a classroom. Anything that didn't need to be there, we'll store it in the containers so that we are able to move the desk far apart. And so that's been a challenge here since our teachers returned here on the 7th, to get all of that done, because we needed them here to make that happen. And they've done a great job, every school that I've visited, in doing that. So.
Yeah, and I was with the staff at LaGrange last week, and it was interesting because we did the social distancing meeting, and so it's a changed format, right? So you have some in person and some are in classrooms, and they are virtual to. They were virtual to me, but all social distance. So you can see the impact that what you guys are doing. You're trying it out already.
You're right. And look, there are a couple of things that are really different about this school year. One of them is all the things we're just talking about, right? So masks. I spoke to a faculty this morning up in DeQuincy, and I said, who'd have thought that we would all be sitting here in the cafeteria 6 feet apart with a mask on, right, talking to each other at the beginning of school. We just couldn't have imagined that.
Right.
But here we are, and we're actually going to see our children sitting there with a mask on. And it's just not something we ever thought would happen. But it's what's going to be necessary, I think, for us to get over this hurdle. And of course, the mask has become a big issue, right, across the nation. But to us, it's really not a political issue. It's just a matter of how do we keep our children the safest we possibly can. And if that's part of what we have to do, then it's worth doing to have them face-to-face with a teacher. Now, we have about 7,500 students who, for whatever reason, whether it was they didn't feel safe being there, they might have had an underlying health condition, they're going to be going to our connected classrooms, which is full-time online virtual program. We also could not have imagined we'd have 7,500 kids in the 2021 school year sign up to be online only, right? People have asked me, will it ever go back to normal when it comes to that virtual instruction? I think from now on, we will always have some virtual instruction, right? We'll have a group that will be in connected classrooms from here on. That'll never go away. I hope it's not 7,500 as we move forward, because I still truly believe the best opportunity for education is with a teacher face-to-face in the classroom.
Sure.
We really believe that that's important, and we want to get back to normal where that is what the normal thing is, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, Karl, this and COVID kind of accelerated things. But if you go back a year ago, you and I had a meeting and we were talking about the changes that education is going to have to make in how they educate students, how they contact students. And we're talking even about colleges, right? So this, and one of your comments was, hey, education, we're a big ship when you move really, really slow, right? It would imagine a year forward that this crisis makes all that change and go to a speedboat.
Well, but that was my point about education. We were talking about it. Is over time, we're such a big organization, not just Calcasieu, but education as a whole, right? It takes a long time to change those attitudes until there's a crisis, right? Or some catalyst that makes you change.
Right.
So here we are. Here's that catalyst, however unfortunate it may be, that forced us to look at online instruction. It forced colleges to look at online instruction.
Absolutely.
Much to the chagrin of some paying customers at colleges, right? I'm sure you've seen that across the country, wondering if they're getting their full value with that online instruction. Sure. I can tell you here in Calcasieu, we're paying a lot of attention to that virtual opportunity to make sure that the 4 core subjects in kindergarten through 8th grade specifically are taught every day. That science, social studies, English, and math. In the high schools, we're offering a Carnegie unit course for pretty much all of the regular things we offer. Now, I will say we've had a lot of parents ask us, about some of the special things we offer in a face-to-face environment, right? Our magnet programs and some of our French immersion or Spanish immersion classes. We're not able to do that online because we just don't have the resources. We don't have the teachers to do those things in those environments with the small numbers that we would have to offer. So there were some folks disappointed about that, but we're committed to the core instruction in those 4 areas, and making sure that's done to fidelity with the type of instructional materials that we would use in curriculum we would use in our classrooms.
Well, that's awesome. That's just phenomenal. So, one parent asked, once a parent, if a parent decides to change their mind to go from virtual back to face-to-face, can they do that? And is the school system equipped to handle that new student?
Yeah, so we knew this was also new, that we needed to provide a grace period, an opportunity to make a change. And so we had planned to open that on the first day of school and run it for 2 weeks. Our board agreed with us when we suggested last week to actually open it last Thursday instead. So we opened that window earlier because we already had a lot of people who wanted to change one direction or another. And it was an advantage to our schools to not have a big line standing outside the first day of school waiting to change if we could head that off by opening it early. We will still honor the first 2 weeks of school, however. So we'll go through Friday, September the 4th, allowing our parents to change. We are encouraging them to think carefully about that and, make that change that one time, if we can hold them to that, and consider it very seriously when they do that. We know, though, as well, Cedrick, there are people who want to see what the schools are going to look like before they make that change, right?
Right.
They want to see how distanced those classrooms might be. They want to see what the safety protocols are going to look like when their child walks into school every day or when they're dropped off. And that's why we had the 2 week window. So they'll certainly be able to observe that and see if they're comfortable. Hopefully they are. But if they're not, there will be the virtual opportunity or the other way around.
Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome, man. And it sounds like you're saying, hey, because you're going to be offering the core curriculum every day to both virtual student and face-to-face student, it sounds like you're saying, hey, the student experience is going to be pretty much the same regardless of which option they.
Yeah, I think so. But a point I need to make about, and a lot of questions have been asked about, is so in the spring, we kind of were forced into offering something, right? I'll call it something when school closed. It was not true virtual instruction that we're going to, or online instruction like we're going to offer now. It wasn't so structured. It wasn't developed ahead of time. It wasn't broken into the 4 core areas. We didn't have teachers specifically dedicated to just teaching online like we will this fall. So I think some parents signed up for online thinking it was going to be what they saw in the spring, which was just a sprinkling of connectivity, right? Hit or miss, take advantage of it if you want to. But this program that we're going to offer here in the fall, I mean, there will be attendance taken, right? There will be at least 7 grades per marking period offered, probably more than that, but a minimum of 7. I mean, it's real thing. And it counts, and students are going to have to be engaged and be willing to participate to make those good grades and get what they need to get out of it. So that's an important point that our parents need to realize too.
Sure. And so what can parents best, or how can parents best help this school year?
So a couple of things. I think the first advice I was offered is try to stay positive, right? There's so much negativity, man. If you're watching the news, if you're talking to people, and so much negativity, but it's important, and what we're telling our teachers and our faculty as well, that whatever attitude you convey, people kind of adapt, right? And they adopt that attitude. So it's important for parents to stay positive with their kids and keep them upbeat. Certainly, we would like and ask them to explain to their children about the safety protocols and how they're going to work. that you're going to have your temperature taken every day. It's not painful. Somebody's going to put something to your forehead and just press a button, and it's going to tell them what your temperature is, right? You're going to be wearing a mask. So practice that now, maybe. See how it's going to feel. Find a mask that they're comfortable with. Now, we're going to offer masks. We have 3 masks for every student. When they come, the National Guard actually provided 1, and we bought 2 for every student. But we won't be able to get those to them until the first day. So a lot of folks are going to come with their own mask. It's one they need to be comfortable in. And I think the ones we bought are pretty comfortable too. Some people, adults who have tried them out, really like them. So we're happy that that was the case. Those people who chose the online version, parents are going to need to support their students in doing that. They're going to make sure they're on target, that they're engaged, that they're doing what their dedicated teacher asked them to do. They're going to be available to communicate with their teacher. So there's a lot of things parents can do to make this more successful for their student. Also to reduce the anxiety of their student coming back that first day. Because so many of our students are, man, they're just happy to get there, right?
Right.
They haven't seen their friends since since March 13th. In that vein, they can't run up to each other and hug each other, though. And man, that's a challenge, you know. Kids want to hug their teacher.
Right.
They want to hug each other, but that's not going to be what the safety protocols call for. So the social distancing, the parents can help us by explaining that. It's not that your teacher doesn't love you. They just can't hug you. They can fist bump you, right?
Right.
Or you know, talk to you and say hello and smile at you, but the hugging is just going to be off limits for a little while from students and teachers. So that's another message they can convey.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be, like you said, a challenge to get students to adhere to it and understand that why it's so important that they adhere to that policy, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's for the safety of everybody involved, both students and our adults in those schools.
Sure, absolutely. Well, you guys keep doing the great work in trying to make sure that kids have a great environment to go and learn with. Now, let me say this. I've seen a lot of new principals in the district. Now, I've not met all of them, but I've seen the different announcements or new principals across the district. I've met the new principal at LaGrange High School. Great hire. Ms. Guillory has been just awesome, and her energy and excitement and motivation, just and inspiration is just off the chart. So I know you have a lot of new principals across the district. So how exciting that must be to have in this newness at a lot of schools.
It is, and you're right about Ms. Guillory. We're excited. Ms. Guillory is one of our principals that came in from Texas. Actually came in from outside the district. And so we're excited with all of our new principals, and some of them moved from school to school. They're all going to do a great job. I feel confident. I've had the fortune in 6 years to appoint about 150 administrators in Calcasieu Parish. So that's been a huge turnover in those 6 years. You know, a lot of folks retired and we're at retirement age. And we've had people step up to fill those jobs. We're excited. I think one of the main things I look for when we hire administrators and principals and assistant principals, supervisors, is a strong work ethic, right? Man, I need people to commit to lead by example. I need to have them be willing to walk the walk, because when they do, typically people will follow them, right?
Right.
It's so important. And man, I feel good about all the people we've hired this year for sure, and in the past as well, that they are willing to do that. And I think through COVID, man, they're demonstrating it, right? We can see it every day right now, because they stepped into a mess. Let's be honest, right?
Right.
You know, it's not a great time to take a new job,
right,
having to deal with COVID. But we're so proud of all of our folks. They've stepped up. Look, we're asking them to do a lot, man. I know it's tiring. We're sending out emails just by the ton. We're sending out. I started sending out a newsletter a couple of weeks ago to consolidate the emails so that they just didn't have so many. so much information, but there's really no other way to do it because so much of this stuff is new. It's stuff we've never done before. So, leadership, we need to have those people skills as well.
Right.
That's such an important part of being a leader today, with all the things that come into what parents expect and what students expect. You need to be able to talk to them, and have that communication ability. Everybody wants to know this minute, right, what's going on, and how the school's going to react to this and that and the other. And we need to be able to communicate that too. So we look for that in our leaders as well.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the old saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care first, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And this year is especially important. Well, I'm excited about a lot of the new principals you guys have, and looking forward to meeting a lot of them. I've not met the new principal over at Moss Bluff Middle, but I heard a lot of great things about her. So I'm planning.
We're very excited. In fact, we're going to, I think our local TV stations asked for 4 places, right, that they can go the first day of school. And 2 of those are actually 2 of our new principals, Moss Bluff Middle and LaGrange, will be 2 of the places we're going to send the TV station on the first day of school, because they have such energy and such excitement in their first year. It'll certainly be a good indicator of how we're starting that first day.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I'm a little biased too. We got to make sure we get those Charging Indians in there too.
Oh,
right?
Mr. Harvey would love to do that. I think he did it for us last year, though. Of course, his energy is, exciting too to be around.
Sure.
Harvey's always excited. So
yeah, absolutely. I just had to throw the Charging Indians out.
I understand. Got to get your plug in, right?
Yes, and in fact, you might not know about this, but next week, since you guys are starting school, one of the things we're doing all week. So next Monday night, Washington Marion class of 85 will be here right in your seat. Then Tuesday night, Washington Marion class of 84 will be on Tuesday night. So 85 had to go first because I'm an 85er, right? So,
yeah, I know how old those people are because I'm 83, right? So I know the aches and pains that group's going to be feeling when they're sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, that's why we're doing it early.
That's right. That's right.
But Washington Marion is probably going to be on Wednesday. LaGrange will be on Thursday, and they'll have some of their administrators and some students. And then Friday we'll have elementary day, and it's going to Miss Brentwood Elementary, Miss Spain.
Yeah, Julie Span, right? Yeah,
Julie Span will be there, and as well as Miss St. Mary at Oak Park Elementary. They'll be on here with some of their staff and students next Friday.
Super. I know you'll enjoy that. They're going to do an excellent job for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to just celebrate the beginning of the school year. So, growth has to be intentional in order to make that happen. So what do you do for personal and professional growth and development?
So, man, I've been a part of organizations since I got into school systems. Business officials, obviously, for all of those years. I served as president twice of the Louisiana School Business Officials. Actually, many years apart, right? I did it at one point and then came back years later and did it again. So obviously being in those organizations, I was chairman for 3 straight years of our regional superintendent's organization about a year after I got the job, which encompasses Lafayette and Lake Charles. There's 13 of us parishes in those 2 regions. And we have a uniform group. In fact, this is another way to grow, right? Is to talk to your peers. And it's probably my favorite way to grow. So I can't tell you we probably knew what Zoom was before COVID, but man, let me tell you, it's been a positive because once a week now, those 13 superintendents in this region are on a Zoom call. Whether we're comparing war stories that makes us all feel better, right? Because we have the same problems. Whether it's talking about what the state's doing for us or to us, right?
Right.
And things that we're all facing that are coming the next week. And man, it's been a great benefit. So I've grown a lot from hearing from those people. And I find in anything I've ever done, talking to your peers, seeing what they're doing, what best practices might be, are a great thing. I've found, especially during COVID, I've been reading a lot, not so much a book here lately though, because there's hundreds of articles every night around the country and around the world on how school systems are dealing with COVID. And about 9 o'clock every night, I have my iPad and I start going through articles. And I'll do that for sometimes an hour a night. It's a little depressing sometimes, to be honest with you, because man,
sure.
there's a lot of problems, I got to admit, but there are also some good stories. And
Sure.
you're seeing how people are adapting and what they're doing for safety and what they're doing. And I've learned so much about this crisis from doing that.
Sure.
And kind of learned that that's the way to do it, right? You see what they're all doing. And certainly sometimes there's not a need to reinvent the wheel.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Reinventing the wheel there's no need to do it. In fact, Thomas Edison was one of those guys that talked specifically around that. He said, hey, look, there's some ideas that are out there that I just perfect them. Awesome. So you talk about this superintendent circle. So one of these days I got to get an invite to this superintendent circle.
There you go. We'll get you involved, and you can address them and tell them what you think about the world,
Yes, absolutely. So, hey, one parent asked about the mask and she said, are all the masks going to be free at every level?
Yeah, we ordered about 78,000 masks. Which that was 2 for every student and 2 for every faculty member, right? And then, like I said, the National Guard came in and gave us another set. So those are free to every student. The only problem, like I said, is they won't have them the first day of school. So they'll need to come with something that first day, and then we'll have masks available for them. They're washable masks, they're reusable. So they'll be able to take those home, wash them when they feel like they need to. Have a spare couple actually with 3. We might keep one in the classroom, at least at the beginning, in case they forget their mask. They'll have one mask in the classroom. So we're working on those things. But yeah, they're free to every student. Like I said, the school district bought those, and the National Guard came through with one more.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, hey, what advice would you give to an emerging leader for trying to find leadership opportunities and ways to fill their professional toolbox?
So I would say from a school system perspective, I would break that into 2 categories, right? So there's the teacher who wants to become an administrator. And I would advise him to talk to as many people as you can that do what you want to do. So pick the brain of your assistant principal and your principal. See what they love about their job, what they don't. See what their challenges are, what hurdles they face every day. Talk about how they got into that position. What courses did they take when they went back to school? What leadership trainings did they go through? All of those things are so important, what learning opportunities they can find. I would also advise any teacher wanting to move up nowadays, become technology literate. It's really important. Look at COVID, man. It's Microsoft Teams, it's Zoom, it's being able to look at a Microsoft OneNote in our district and use that as your online binder. Man, it's become so important to be technology literate. I've had to learn a lot of stuff myself over the last 5 months. I can't lie, man. It's been a challenge for me, but I've tried to step up and do that as I've had to. So on the teacher side, I think those are the important things. And then, of course, we have principals and assistant principals who are wanting to move up in the district into other positions. I think they need to associate themselves with positive things, right? Because if you get the reputation in any organization, school systems are no different of being a negative Nelly out there in the world.
Yeah,
it's hard to come back from that, right?
Yes.
So no matter what challenge you face, try to be positive about it. That's so important. A lot of the things I've preached in my whole 6 years, and people who have been with me for 6 years in the principals meetings and so forth will tell you, you need to step up during a crisis, right? You can't be the person hiding in your office when the crisis occurs, because if you exude that fright or that tentativeness, guess what's going to happen to the people who report to you, right? They're going to feel that anxiety and that fear too. So that's an important thing. Demonstrate your leadership skills by showing that you can adapt to crisis when things happen. And I can tell you, in schools and in school systems, they happen every day when you don't even see them coming. You know, the bus doesn't come on time. The kids are stuck there after school. You have to adapt, and the fire drill or the fire that you smoke somewhere, or the belt's burning on the air conditioner. You never know what's going to happen in the day. But if you adopt a positive attitude, and you react in a positive manner, it goes a long way toward getting you the opportunity to put yourself in a different position in the school system, because you create that reputation for yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Well, like I said at the very beginning of the show, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? So if you want to be a leader, you have to be able to step up in that crisis opportunity, in a crisis time, to show that you are a leader. And John Maxwell always says, if you're leading and no one's following, you're not really leading. You're just taking a walk, right?
Yeah, we had a conversation the other day about speaking to groups, right? A lot of times leaders have to speak to groups, and who are you? You have to ask yourself, and I ask myself that all the time when I'm speaking to groups. I mentioned earlier being able to read the room, and so you have to consider: are you speaking to the group for yourself, or are you speaking to the group so that they get something out of it and so that they progress? If you're speaking to the group because it's what you want to say and it's just for you as an individual, you're not going to make any headway, because people are going to pick up on that very quickly, that you don't really care what they think, right?
Right.
That you're just talking to talk because you had a message that you wanted to get out, not what they needed to hear to inspire them or motivate them to do a better job, for example.
Right. Absolutely. Carl, you have been very instrumental in bringing leadership development programs to students, teachers, support staff in Calcasieu Parish. Why has that been so important?
Well, I think to grow, right? And let's go back to defining a leader again. So a leader is not just a boss. I mean, that's how a leader's perceived, right? I mean,
Right.
Oh, that's my boss. They're a leader. But man, anybody can be a leader, right? Anybody can take people in a direction. And if you have this leadership training and you cultivate that atmosphere for leadership development, then those leaders take people in the right direction and not the wrong direction. That's how I see us growing, is if we have enough people pulling and taking people in the right direction because we've cultivated leadership, then we grow. We become a better school system. We provide a better product for our parents and our community, right?
Right.
And that's what's important. That's what we're about, is providing that good product so that the students in Calcasieu Parish can become better citizens, better students, better, whatever they want to be in their future.
Sure. Yeah. Creating a leadership culture definitely impacts the youngest people in the organization, which are the students.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what impact has having leadership development programs in the district, what impact has that had on performance or outcomes across the district?
Oh, I think it's helped us to grow. We've seen growth in the last few years. In our state obviously marks our growth through a school performance score or district performance score. I'd like to think there are so many other ways that we reach our children, right, in the district. Certainly how they score on that test is important because it's a measuring stick.
Right.
And we have to make them good at taking that test and knowing what's going to be on it and excelling at those core subjects. But man, there's so much more. We found that out during COVID. There's their social and emotional well-being, right? How do they feel about life? How do they feel about their situation? How are they growing? What's the environment they're coming from? What's the environment they're going home to? And certainly when we do leadership development, we need to focus on having our adults recognize that about children. They need to recognize when that children's when that child's in a situation that they're not comfortable in, where school may be the environment where they feel safe, right? Or they're getting maybe the only meal they're getting. The adults need to know that, because they need to help the kids through those situations and make that a safe place for them.
Sure.
So when we train leaders, and that's an important aspect of what we need to do with our leaders is cultivating that environment.
Yes, absolutely. So, we've talked about a lot of different things on a serious side. So, hey, when you have the necktie is off and you're just chilling out at home, getting ready for those grandbabies, what are you eating for dessert?
Well, man, I'm not a big sugar guy. I'm a salty guy. So I'm the corn chip, potato chip, Stacy's pita chips guy. Luckily hummus came out because I was eating dip and getting fat again. Hummus is somewhat healthy. So that's what I like to do. I had a hip replacement almost exactly 6 weeks ago. So I was always a big runner, ran 9 marathons and enjoyed that. Obviously, the bum hip put me on the sideline for a while, but I feel like I'm on a recovery here. I might even try to run a little bit with the artificial hip, even though the doctor says that that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
I've been accused of being hard-headed. Love to play golf, getting back to that after the hip recuperates as well. And just anything physical, I enjoy it. And as I said at the beginning, spending time with my family. I thoroughly love to do that whenever I have that opportunity. So.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I know, folks, when I'm sometimes sitting downtown eating lunch in a restaurant, I used to see Karl running.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys,
I was running to the table. He was running for help.
Yeah, well, that's what somebody asked me, that this job comes with a fair amount of stress as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working out at noon really the whole time, even before I moved to Calcasieu Parish. That noon workout was so important to me. It relieves a lot of stress. It allows me to think about what I have to do. And as I'm working out or running or walking or whatever I'm doing on the elliptical, I'm steadily solving problems in my head that have come up or that I know are going to come up. I feel like I'm much better at my job because I have that release and that thought process. So that's been the norm for me for quite a while.
Wow. Well, we know that, some of the data says for students that have mentors, that they are 55% more likely to, go on to college. We understand that the data says that a child that has a mentor is 130% more likely to become a leader later on in life, and they are 80% more likely to become a mentor themselves. So, do you have a mentor? And if so, how have they impacted your life?
I probably don't have just one, Cedrick. Here's what I would say. Working in 5 school systems, right? I've worked for 9 different superintendents. And I think taking qualities from all of those people, just so many different personalities, so many leadership styles. You can imagine 9 different people running school systems over the years. All the things I've been fortunate enough to see and watch people do, right? Different styles. So I would say all of those people have some part in mentoring me for what I'm doing here today. I've gleaned little things from all of them, and the things that they did. So that's been an important part of my progression into this job, I think, and been trying to be successful in this job is to remember what I saw, what was successful that they did, and what might not have been, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many different school board members I've worked with over that time, with elections every 4 years. Another thing is that the natural progression for a superintendent, right, is through the teacher process, teacher, assistant principal. But what I've benefited from is from my very first job 33 years ago, I've been in the central office. So I've seen school systems from that perspective and all the different things that happen. I've been going to school board meetings for 33 years, at least once a month. You just learn so much stuff from that process.
Right.
So that's been the role I've been in, and I wouldn't point to just one person, but I'd point to all of that together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's awesome. And, having multiple mentors to help shape you in a lot of different ways is definitely important. So, hey, so, we've all had successes in our lives, and you've had a long, successful career, but we've also all had times where we failed at something, or we didn't do as good as we thought we could have done. Give us a time where you failed and how you overcame that, and what you learned. What did you learn from it?
Well, you're going to laugh, but I would consider my failure this right now. It's social media, man, and I mean it. I realize the world has changed, and social media is a big part of everybody's life.
Mm-hmm.
I've just had a lot of trouble embracing it. Because for all the positive things that come from it, like this, right? This is positive. Hopefully people benefit from this. And the family engagement that happens on social media, where grandmothers get to see their grandkids that they might not have seen otherwise, especially during COVID.
Right.
I have a hard time getting over some of the negativity that comes from social media. It's good and evil, right?
Right.
And so that's probably been my biggest failure is I haven't embraced social media the way I should have. And so it's been hard for me to communicate there. While our school system does it because we have great people doing it for us, it hasn't been me personally. I have Twitter, right?
At least you said the name right.
Well, I don't use it like I should. I don't have Facebook. So I've just been behind in doing that. And in this day and age, with things going on the way they are and you trying to get your message out, that makes it hard.
Sure.
So that's probably been my biggest failure. Although, man, I'm glad to be with you tonight here on social media, helping to overcome that,
Well, awesome. Well, this is the first step. Next, we're going to see Karl Bruchhaus is on Facebook.
Man, I don't know about that. Come on,
man. So what's next? I know 18 years as CFO, you're still superintendent, but I'm not saying you're getting ready to retire or anything like this, but just what's the next life plans for you?
Well, so I've been in government, right, for 33 years, and government has its idiosyncrasies, of course, like everything does. Possibly at some point, I'd like to see how my skills I've developed over the years translate to the private sector in some way. I think that would be interesting, would be different, right? So many people say, who have been in important leadership positions and stressful leadership positions. So many people say, man, my next job, I don't want to be over anybody. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be anybody's boss. I don't think that bothers me too much. So even if I go into a different area, whether it's in the private sector, I think I'm sort of called to be a manager. I enjoy it. I enjoy dealing with people. That kind of gets away from the old accountant norm, right?
Right.
But I've enjoyed that so much in my career, being with people. I would like to see that translate to something else in the future at some point. I don't know when that's going to be, but at that point, I'd like to try my hand and see if I can make that happen somewhere.
Well, you have the personality and the temperament for it, and also the leadership acumen, which is so important and so critical. Understanding how to treat people.
That's very important. Look, I know it myself. I know the way I feel when I'm treated well. I'd like to think that everybody feels that way, and hopefully, I try to do that whenever I have the opportunity to make people feel good about themselves and feel good about the situation they're in.
Yeah, and that's the key and critical thing there. So there's a question here, and we'll be done here. It's a little bit. So is there special training for subs this year, and what are procedures to become one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've been asking our principals for the last week, right, to call their subs that they use on a regular basis. That doesn't mean somebody can't become a regular sub. We have a process where you go through the application process. Here at the school system in personnel, you get fingerprinted, background checked. you're then put into the subsystem, which we use a CAN system called ASOP. And then the system will call you to sub at various schools. But once you become a regular, principals find out that you're good at it, and they'll call you even more often than ASOP will, right? Now, for this school year, that first day the sub comes in, certainly our leadership teams will have to make them cognizant of what's required with the COVID situation. And I've mentioned all those things here as we've met today.
Sure.
Pretty standard stuff, but it's a little different on what the expectations are. And so our leadership teams will make all of our subs know what those things are as they come in.
Awesome. Well, Karl, we're going to wrap up here, but any last message you want to give to the parents, students, teachers, administrators at Cactus Parish?
So in this time of struggle and anxiety and stress, like I told the faculty I met with this morning, right? We all have different skills and we all have different worries. At the end of the day, we just need to do the best we can do, right? If we keep students in mind and what's best for students here in education, we're going to do the right thing. We can't miss as long as we're working hard and doing our best for them. Not for us, not necessarily for the adults, right? But for the student, because so many of our students have so many needs. And so as long as we're doing that, we're going to be successful. In the time of COVID, the other message I've given with COVID is it's not comparable to last year or 2018. And if you as a parent or you as a teacher or whoever out in the world, right, a business owner today, mm-hmm. are comparing right now to something you knew in the past, it's going to do nothing but create anxiety for you, because it's not like anything we've ever seen in the past. It's its own deal, and it's new, and everything's a new experience. So if we kind of, I don't want to say embrace it because we don't love it, right? But if we embrace it in that vein, that it's new and it's going to be something new at every turn, then maybe we're not so stressed about it. We realize that we can make it work by giving it our best shot.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you very much for coming on tonight. I've definitely enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully you have as well. And for parents, teachers, principals, administrators, know that these are different times. These are difficult times. And you know what? In mankind, we've always overcome those challenges. If you lead in the right way, we will overcome this challenge as well. And guys, next week, Cactus Parish starts school. All next week, Monday through Friday, we will be celebrating schools in Cactus Parish. So join us next Monday at 6:30, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time next week, and next Friday it'll be at 5:30 Central Time. So be excited and be engaged about this school year. I'm excited about it. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in to Talk Leadership with Cedrick, where everybody needs a little TLC.